Shane McMahon once said about a wrestler, he was the worst, and that wasn't the only time he felt that way. The son of Vince McMahon didn't just jump off cages for fun. Behind the scenes, Shane had real enemies. These weren't just storyline rivalries. These were actual grudges that lasted for years, sometimes decades. Shane protected his family like a guard dog, and when someone crossed the McMahons, Shane never forgot. Let's count down the 10 wrestlers Shane McMahon truly hated, starting with number 10. Number 10, Shawn Michaels. Before Shawn Michaels found God and became a good guy, he was a nightmare backstage. In the 1990s, Shawn ran the locker room like a dictator. He led a group called The Clique, which included Triple H, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Sean Waltman. Together, they controlled what happened in the WWF. If Shawn didn't like something, it didn't happen. He had Vince McMahon wrapped around his finger. Shane watched all of this from behind the scenes. He was working in lower jobs at the time, learning the business. He saw how Shawn treated his father. Shawn used drugs, acted crazy, and refused to lose matches when he was supposed to. Shane viewed Shawn as a loose cannon who couldn't be trusted. One story really bothered Shane. Shawn got mad about a storyline one day. He crumpled up the script and threw it right in Vince McMahon's face. For Shane, who was raised to respect his father above everything, this was unforgivable. You don't disrespect the boss like that, especially when the boss is your father. Shane also blamed Shawn for the Montreal Screwjob. Shawn refused to lose the championship to Bret Hart, which forced Vince to make a terrible decision. That decision stained the McMahon name for years. In Shane's view, if Shawn had just done the right thing and dropped the belt, none of the controversy would have happened. In 2006, Shane finally got his chance for revenge. He wrestled Shawn Michaels in a street fight. During the match, Shane used Bret Hart's finishing move, the sharpshooter, on Shawn. It was a message. Shane beat Shawn up badly that night. People watching backstage said Shane seemed to enjoy hurting Shawn a little too much. He was working out years of anger with every punch and kick. Shane eventually made peace with Shawn after Michaels changed his life and became a born-again Christian. But during those early years, Shane hated Shawn for the chaos he caused and the disrespect he showed to Vince. Shawn was talented, no doubt about it, but his character was rotten, and Shane never forgot that dark period. Number 9, CM Punk. CM Punk and Shane McMahon were complete opposites. Punk came from nothing. He wrestled in tiny buildings and worked his way up through independent wrestling companies. He was a rebel who hated authority and questioned everything. Shane was born into the wrestling business. He grew up rich and powerful with every advantage. Punk saw Shane as a spoiled rich kid who never had to struggle. Shane saw Punk as ungrateful and disrespectful to the company that made him a star. During his time in WWE, Punk called himself the best in the world. It became his catchphrase and his brand. Everyone knew Punk by that name. He held the WWE Championship for 434 days, one of the longest reigns in history. But in 2014, Punk got fed up with WWE and walked out. He quit the company and never looked back. He even sued WWE later over unpaid royalties and other issues. Shane viewed this as the ultimate betrayal. In Shane's mind, WWE gave Punk everything. They made him a star. They put him on pay-per-views, they paid him millions, and Punk just walked away like none of it mattered. To Shane, this showed a complete lack of loyalty. It proved that Punk didn't respect the business or the McMahon family that had built this empire over decades. Years later, something petty happened that showed just how much Shane disliked Punk. In 2018, WWE held a tournament in Saudi Arabia called the World Cup. Shane McMahon, who wasn't even a full-time wrestler at that point, put himself in the finals. He won the match and started calling himself the best in the world. He stole Punk's nickname on purpose, right there on international television. Everyone in the wrestling world saw this as Shane taking a direct shot at Punk. Shane was saying that the company owns everything, including the nicknames and catchphrases that wrestlers make famous. He wanted to remind everyone that individuals don't matter more than the WWE brand itself. This was Shane's way of saying Punk meant nothing without the McMahon machine behind him. When rumors started in 2019 that Punk might return to WWE, Shane was reportedly not on board with the idea. He didn't want Punk back in the company. He viewed Punk as a complainer who would only cause problems and stir up trouble in the locker room. Shane believed in loyalty above all else. Since Punk had shown no loyalty when he walked out, he didn't deserve a second chance or any kind of redemption. Punk did eventually return to WWE in 2023, but only after Shane had been pushed out of the company entirely. If Shane still had power and influence in WWE, Punk probably never would have come back. The hatred between them was about more than just wrestling moves or championships. It was about two completely different views of how life should work and what loyalty means in the business. Number 8, Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff was the president of WCW during the Monday Night Wars. For 83 straight weeks, his show, Monday Nitro, beat WWE's Raw in the television ratings. Bischoff almost destroyed the McMahon family business during that time. He didn't just compete with WWE in a fair fight, he mocked them constantly. He gave away the results of Raw on his show because Raw was taped in advance. He challenged Vince to physical fights on television. He made fun of WWE every single chance he got. But the worst thing Bischoff did was make it personal. He didn't just attack the company, he attacked the McMahon family directly. He would insult Linda McMahon on television, calling her names and making her look weak. For Shane, who was deeply protective of his mother, this crossed a major line. These weren't just business tactics, they were personal attacks on his family. When WWE hired Bischoff in 2002 as the general manager of Raw, they turned the real-life war into a storyline. One angle involved Bischoff breaking into the McMahon home and forcibly kissing Linda McMahon. Even though Linda agreed to do the scene for television, it was extremely uncomfortable for everyone involved. It brought back all the pain and anger from the Monday Night Wars. Shane hated Bischoff for the years of attacks on his family. Bischoff had tried to put them out of business and destroy everything Vince had built. He had insulted Shane's mother on national television week after week, and now he was part of a storyline where he violated their home. Even though it was scripted entertainment, it brought back very real emotions and very real pain from that difficult period. At SummerSlam 2003, Shane got his revenge in a big way. He faced Bischoff in a no-holds-barred match. This wasn't a normal wrestling match with rules and sportsmanship. It was a sanctioned beating. Shane trains in Muay Thai, a brutal fighting style from Thailand that uses knees and elbows. He used real strikes on Bischoff during the match. He kicked him hard in the body and face. He punched him with bad intentions. Shane seemed to be genuinely enjoying the violence. The match ended with Shane climbing to the top rope in the corner. He jumped off and drove his elbow straight through Bischoff's body, smashing him through the announce table with tremendous force. It was absolutely brutal to watch. People who were there that night said Shane looked like he was having the time of his life hurting Bischoff. There was a smile on his face as he inflicted the punishment. This wasn't just about winning a wrestling match for the cameras. It was payback for 83 weeks of stress and fear. It was revenge for almost destroying the family business when WWE was vulnerable. For Shane, Bischoff represented the enemy at the gate, the barbarian outsider who tried to burn down the McMahon kingdom. Shane made absolutely sure that Bischoff felt every bit of that accumulated anger in the ring that night. Number 7. Bret Hart. Bret Hart is different from everyone else on this list because Shane didn't start out hating him at all. In the early 1990s, Shane actually looked up to Bret like an older brother. They were close friends who spent time together outside of work. Bret was one of the best wrestlers in the entire world, and Shane respected him deeply, both as a performer and as a person. But everything changed in November 1997 with one night that scarred the entire industry. The Montreal Screwjob is the most famous backstage incident in wrestling history. Bret Hart was leaving WWE to go to WCW because they offered him more money and a better contract. He was still the WWE champion at the time. Vince McMahon didn't want Bret to take the championship belt to the competing company, so he decided to take it from Bret without telling him. This was a huge betrayal of trust. Shane was in the room when they planned the whole thing. He was at ringside when it happened. He knew exactly what was coming. During the match at Survivor Series 1997, the referee rang the bell when Bret was trapped in a submission hold. Even though Bret never gave up or tapped out, Vince screwed Bret out of the title through trickery. Bret realized immediately that he had been double-crossed by people he trusted. After the match ended, Bret went backstage absolutely furious. He found Vince McMahon in the locker room area and punched him square in the face with all his strength. He knocked Vince out completely cold. Vince ended up with a black eye and a concussion from that one punch. It was one of the most shocking moments in backstage wrestling history. Shane was in the room when the punch happened. He immediately jumped on Bret's back, trying desperately to defend his father from further attack. Other people working backstage had to physically pull Shane off of Bret to separate them. Shane was ready to fight one of the toughest and most skilled wrestlers in the business just to protect Vince. That moment showed exactly how loyal Shane was to his father above everything else. After that terrible night, Bret spent years absolutely destroying the McMahon reputation in public. He called them liars, cheaters, and backstabbers in every interview. He made a documentary film called Wrestling with Shadows that showed the world exactly what they did to him. He talked about the screw job in every single interview he gave. He made absolutely sure that everyone knew the McMahons were snakes who couldn't be trusted. Shane hated Bret intensely for all of this public warfare. Shane believed that Bret forced their hand by refusing to lose the championship in Canada, where he was a national hero. Bret's ego and stubbornness backed Vince into a corner where the screw job seemed like the only option. In Shane's view, Bret's selfish pride caused the whole terrible situation. Shane also hated that Bret physically assaulted his father. He hated the years of bad press and negative publicity that Bret created. He hated that Bret wouldn't let it go and move on. For 13 long years, Shane and Bret didn't speak to each other at all. The hatred was completely mutual and ran deep. Bret saw Shane as a spoiled rich kid who helped his father cheat and betray a loyal employee. Shane saw Bret as a selfish, egotistical man who put his own pride above the good of the business. They finally made peace in 2010 when Bret returned to WWE, but those years in between were filled with nothing but pure hatred on both sides. Number 6. Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is not like other wrestlers in any way. He was a legitimate college wrestling champion at the University of Minnesota. He became a UFC heavyweight champion and one of the most feared fighters on the planet. Brock doesn't care about the wrestling business the way other people do. He shows up, collects his enormous paycheck, and leaves. He works only a handful of dates per year, but makes millions of dollars. This attitude bothered a lot of people in WWE, including Shane McMahon, who believed everyone should respect the business. At WrestleMania 34 in 2018, Brock defended the Universal Championship against Roman Reigns in the main event. WWE wanted Roman to win and become the new champion and face of the company. But the match was absolutely terrible from start to finish. The crowd hated every minute of it. They booed loudly, played with beach balls, and chanted things like, "This is awful," and "This match sucks." It was embarrassing for everyone involved. At the end of the match, Brock won instead of Roman, which surprised everyone watching. The finish was changed at some point. After the match concluded, Brock was absolutely furious about how everything had gone. He stormed backstage to the area behind the curtain called the Gorilla Position, which is the control center where Vince and the producers watch everything. Vince McMahon was sitting right there watching the monitors when Brock came through the curtain. Brock walked directly past Vince and violently threw the Universal Championship belt. Different people tell different versions of what happened next. Some witnesses say Brock threw the belt directly at Vince. Others say he threw it past Vince into the wall behind him. Either way, it was a display of total disrespect toward the chairman of the company. Shane McMahon was standing nearby when this happened. When he saw what Brock did to his father, Shane completely lost his mind. He tried to go after Brock physically, ready to fight. Remember, Brock Lesnar is a trained UFC fighter who could probably kill most people with his bare hands. Shane is tough and knows how to fight, but he's absolutely not Brock Lesnar. Other people in the area had to grab Shane and physically hold him back to prevent him from attacking Brock and getting destroyed. This moment reveals everything important about Shane's personality and psychology. He didn't think rationally about the consequences of fighting Brock. He didn't care that Brock could seriously injure or even kill him. All Shane saw in that moment was someone showing disrespect to his elderly father. Shane's natural instinct was to fight and defend, even if it meant getting hurt very badly or even hospitalized. Brock continued working for WWE after this incident happened. Cooler heads in management eventually made peace and smoothed things over for business reasons, but Shane never truly forgot what Brock did that night. He viewed Brock as a bully who used his enormous size and legitimate fighting skills to intimidate an old man. Vince was 72 years old at the time of this incident. Shane hated Brock for treating his father that way and for showing such blatant disrespect. Number 5. Randy Savage. Randy Savage was one of the biggest stars in wrestling history. He was a legend in the WWF during the 1980s and early 1990s. His Macho Man character was absolutely iconic and beloved by millions of fans. Everyone loved his intensity and his colorful personality. But after he left for WCW in 1994, something very strange happened. WWE completely erased him from their history books. They didn't talk about him. They didn't show old videos of his matches. It was like Randy Savage had never existed in WWE at all. Other legends eventually came back to WWE over the following years. Hulk Hogan returned multiple times. Roddy Piper came back. Even Ric Flair, who had worked for WCW for most of his career, came to WWE and was welcomed. But not Randy Savage. He was completely blacklisted from the company. No one in WWE would explain why, and the McMahons absolutely refused to discuss the situation publicly. Rumors spread wildly about what might have happened between Savage and the McMahon family, but nothing was ever confirmed by anyone involved. Whatever whatever Savage did, it was apparently bad enough to get him permanently banned for the rest of his life. Shane McMahon's personal hatred of Randy Savage was incredibly intense. A writer who worked for WWE magazine during the 2000s told a very disturbing story about an incident he witnessed. This happened sometime around 2005 or 2006 in the WWE offices. Shane was in charge of the magazine and digital media departments at that time. He was walking through the office area one day when he spotted something that made him absolutely snap. A young employee who worked there had put up a vintage Randy Savage poster on the wall of their cubicle. It was just an innocent fan tribute showing respect for a legend of the business. But when Shane saw that poster, his reaction was immediate and violent. He didn't politely ask for it to be taken down. He didn't make a joke about it or tell the employee to remove it. He didn't say a single word to anyone. Instead, Shane walked straight over to the poster hanging on the wall. He started poking it with his fingers as hard as he possibly could. He kept jabbing at it repeatedly with intense force until the poster finally fell off the wall and dropped onto the floor. Then Shane stepped directly on the poster with his shoe. He crushed it and ground it into the floor with his foot. And then he simply walked into his private office without saying anything to anyone about what had just happened. The whole incident was silent and extremely violent in its energy. It showed a level of pure rage that went far beyond normal anger or professional disagreement. This wasn't about business decisions or contract negotiations. If the hatred was simply about Savage leaving for WCW like other wrestlers had done, Shane would have probably just ignored the poster or made a dismissive comment. The physical aggression he showed toward just an image of Savage revealed something much deeper and more personal. Randy Savage died tragically in 2011 from a heart attack while driving his car. He never returned to WWE while he was still alive. The company kept him banned until the very end. It was only in 2015, 4 full years after his death, the WWE finally inducted him into the Hall of Fame. Even then, Shane McMahon notably did not lead that ceremony or participate in it prominently. The hatred ran so deep that even after Savage died, the wounds hadn't fully healed. Number 4. Lex Luger. In 1993, Vince McMahon desperately needed a new hero for his company. Hulk Hogan had left WWE. The company was struggling badly. The steroid scandal had damaged WWE's reputation. Vince chose Lex Luger to be the next big superstar and face of the company. He spent millions of dollars on an elaborate promotional campaign called the Lex Express. It involved a tour bus that traveled all across America promoting Luger as a patriotic all-American hero. WWE invested everything they had into making Luger the next Hulk Hogan. But the plan didn't work at all. Luger never connected with the fans the way Vince hoped he would. The crowds didn't embrace him as a hero. He didn't win the WWE Championship at SummerSlam 1993 like they planned. He didn't win it at WrestleMania 10 either. By 1995, Luger was just another wrestler on the roster without any special status. Still, Vince personally liked Luger. He saw him as a loyal employee who tried his best. They had developed a good working relationship over the years. Then came the betrayal that destroyed everything. In September 1995, Lex Luger's contract with WWE expired, but he was working on a handshake agreement with Vince to continue. On September 3rd, Luger wrestled at a WWE house show in Canada. After that match ended, Luger shook Vince McMahon's hand and personally promised him that he would come to the office and sign a new contract the very next day. Vince completely believed him and trusted his word. The next night, September 4th, 1995, something shocking happened on television. Lex Luger walked out onto the set of the very first episode of WCW Monday Nitro at the Mall of America. This was the opening battle of the Monday Night Wars between WWE and WCW. Because WWE taped their shows several days in advance, Luger appeared on both WWE television and WCW television in the same week. It made WWE look completely weak and foolish. It showed the entire world that WCW was now a legitimate threat to WWE's dominance. Vince McMahon was personally hurt by this deception on a deep level. They had shaken hands man to man. Luger had looked him directly in the eyes and made a promise. And then Luger lied and betrayed that trust immediately. Shane witnessed his father's pain and humiliation firsthand. He saw the betrayal and what it did to Vince emotionally. For Shane, this wasn't just about losing one wrestler to the competition. It was about honor and keeping your word. Luger had violated the most basic rule of human decency by lying directly to a man's face and then stabbing him in the back the very next day. When WWE bought WCW in 2001 and acquired all their contracts, most of the top WCW stars received received new WWE contracts. Booker T came over and became a star. Rob Van Dam came over. The Dudley Boys came over. Many others made the transition successfully, but not Lex Luger. He was deliberately left behind and ignored. Reports from that time say Shane McMahon fought extremely hard behind the scenes to keep Luger out of WWE. He absolutely did not want Luger anywhere near the company ever again. Years later, Lex Luger talked about briefly meeting Shane McMahon at a wrestling event. He described it as receiving a cold hello from Shane. Shane acknowledged Luger's presence with a small nod, but refused to shake his hand warmly or have any kind of real conversation with him. The body language and the message were crystal clear. You are not welcome here, and you never will be. Shane's hatred of Lex Luger wasn't about competition or business rivalry. Many wrestlers had left WWE for WCW, and Shane understood that. It was specifically about the deception and the lie. You could leave the company for more money, and Shane would understand that business decision. But you absolutely could not look his father in the eyes, shake his hand, make a promise, and then humiliate the entire company on national television the next day. That crossed an unforgivable line. Luger became a permanent symbol of betrayal, and Shane made absolutely sure he paid the price for it for the rest of his career. Number 3. Buff Bagwell. When WWE bought WCW in 2001, they immediately faced a massive cultural problem. The WCW wrestlers were used to a completely different working environment. WCW had paid people enormous amounts of money, but didn't demand much effort or dedication in return. WWE was the exact opposite. They worked their wrestlers incredibly hard with brutal travel schedules. The locker room had a very strict hierarchy that you had to respect. You had to earn your position and your spot every single night. The WCW guys were viewed by WWE wrestlers as lazy, soft, and entitled. Buff Bagwell represented absolutely everything that WWE hated about WCW culture. He was known for being extremely cocky and arrogant. He didn't work nearly as hard as the WWE guys did, and worst of all, his mother, Judy Bagwell, had actually been part of WCW storylines on television. In WWE's culture, having your mother involved in your professional wrestling career was considered embarrassing and pathetic. Shane McMahon was put in charge of managing the WCW wrestlers during the Invasion storyline. On screen, he played the role of the owner of WCW, fighting against his father's WWE in a corporate war. But in real life behind the scenes, Shane was extremely skeptical of the WCW talent. He viewed them as soldiers from a losing army who were now looking for handouts and easy money. On July 2nd, 2001, WWE tried a major experiment. They made the main event of Monday Night Raw a WCW championship match. Booker T defended the WCW World Heavyweight Championship against Buff Bagwell. The plan was to prove that WCW could function as its own brand and stand on its own. Instead, the experiment became an absolute disaster that killed the entire concept. The crowd in Tacoma, Washington hated the match from the very beginning. They had been trained to view WCW as the enemy. They chanted boring loudly throughout the match. They chanted, "This match sucks," over and over. Bagwell looked absolutely terrible in the ring. He appeared slow and out of shape. He was visibly winded early in the match. He mistimed several moves and spots. He lacked any of the intensity required to be a WWE main event wrestler. The match was so catastrophically bad that it killed the entire idea of running WCW as a separate brand within WWE. Shane McMahon watched this disaster unfold from the gorilla position backstage. He was completely humiliated. He had pushed for giving the WCW brand a real chance to succeed, and Buff Bagwell had single-handedly proven all the critics and doubters right in just 20 minutes. Shane felt personally embarrassed by what happened. Then the situation got even worse. After the match, Judy Bagwell started calling the WWE offices to complain about how her son was being treated. She demanded better travel arrangements for Buff. She questioned why he wasn't being pushed as a major star. She insisted he needed time off to rest. For Shane, who had started his WWE career by physically setting up wrestling rings and doing manual warehouse labor, this was absolutely pathetic. A 30-year-old professional athlete having his mother call his employer to fight his battles showed a complete lack of manhood and professionalism. The final breaking point came during a SmackDown taping shortly after. The Acolytes Protection Agency, which consisted of Bradshaw and Farouk, were known as the enforcers of the WWE locker room. They were often given the job of physically punishing wrestlers who needed to be taught a lesson. They gave Bagwell a powerbomb during the show. Bagwell immediately claimed he was seriously injured from the move. WWE management, specifically Shane McMahon and Jim Ross, believed that Bagwell was faking the injury or exaggerating it. They thought he was trying to avoid working the grueling house show schedule that WWE wrestlers had to maintain. entertain. When Bagwell arrived at the arena for the next show, he wasn't greeted by writers or creative team members. Instead, Jim Ross met him and told him directly that his services were no longer required. He was fired immediately. Shane McMahon reportedly held a meeting with all the WCW wrestlers shortly after this happened. He made it absolutely clear that more firings would come if people didn't meet WWE standards. He was cold, direct, and intimidating. Shane hated Buff Bagwell because he represented everything weak about WCW. He was soft physically. He was entitled mentally. He was embarrassing professionally. In Shane's worldview, Bagwell didn't belong anywhere near WWE. His firing was meant as a clear message to everyone else in the locker room. If you can't meet our standards and work ethic, you will be gone immediately. Number 2, Triple H. The rivalry between Shane McMahon and Triple H is the most important and significant hatred on this entire list because it's fundamentally about power and succession. Shane was supposed to inherit WWE from his father. He was the firstborn son of Vince McMahon. He grew up completely immersed in the wrestling business from childhood. He learned every single aspect of the company directly from Vince. By all traditional rules of succession, the company should have eventually become his to run. But then something changed everything. Triple H, whose real name is Paul Levesque, started dating Stephanie McMahon. They eventually married in 2003. Triple H wasn't just a top wrestler anymore. He was family now. He was incredibly smart about the business side of wrestling. He understood how WWE worked at every level. Over the next decade, Triple H slowly and methodically accumulated more and more power within the company. He moved from being a full-time performer to working in the corporate offices. He took control of talent relations. He ran live events and house shows. He eventually took over creative decisions. He became the heir to the throne instead of Shane. Shane couldn't handle this shift in power dynamics. In 2009, he made the shocking decision to quit WWE entirely. He left the wrestling business completely. He moved to China and started his own business ventures and companies. He wanted desperately to prove he could succeed without his father's help or name. But the real underlying reason he left was that his path to power was permanently blocked by the alliance between Triple H and Stephanie. Together, they were too strong politically. Shane realized he would never run WWE as long as they were there controlling everything. People who worked backstage at WWE during this period described an ongoing Cold War between Shane and Triple H. On the surface, they were polite and professional to each other, but underneath, they didn't trust each other at all. Shane felt like Triple H had manipulated Vince to push him out of the company. Triple H thought Shane was too reckless and emotional and didn't have the discipline required to run a massive global corporation. When Shane returned to WWE in 2016, the underlying tension was still there, just beneath the surface. By January 2022, that tension finally exploded publicly. Shane came back to WWE to help produce the Royal Rumble match. At that time, Triple H had recently suffered a very serious cardiac event and heart problems that temporarily forced him away from his position of power. Shane apparently saw this as an opportunity to reassert himself. Shane reportedly tried to take control of the situation. He booked the entire Royal Rumble match around himself and his own character. He put himself in major prominent spots with top stars like Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins. He made the match primarily about himself instead of building up and showcasing other younger wrestlers who needed the exposure. The entire locker room was absolutely furious about this. Multiple wrestlers complained directly to upper management about Shane's behavior. After the Royal Rumble aired and received terrible reviews from critics and fans, Vince McMahon made a shocking decision. He let Shane go, which was the company's polite way of saying Shane was fired. Multiple reports from Wrestling Observer and other sources indicated that the people in power who were loyal to Triple H and President Nick Khan had successfully maneuvered Shane completely out of the company. They viewed Shane as a threat to their control and got rid of him permanently. Shane hated Triple H because Triple H stole his birthright and his destiny. Triple H was an outsider, not born into the McMahon family, who married into it and systematically took everything Shane was supposed to inherit. This wasn't just about wrestling matches or television ratings. It was about Shane's entire future and his life's purpose. Triple H represented Shane's biggest personal failure. No matter how hard Shane tried or how many risks he took, he simply could not beat Triple H in the real Game of Thrones happening behind the scenes. Number 1, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett sits firmly at number 1 on this list because he committed what Shane McMahon viewed as the ultimate sin. He held Vince McMahon hostage for money. What happened in October 1999 created a grudge so deep that it lasted nearly 20 years. Jeff Jarrett was the Intercontinental Champion heading into the fall of 1999. His contract with WWE was about to expire through a catastrophic administrative mistake made by WWE's Talent Relations Department, which was run by Jim Ross at the time. Jarrett's contract actually expired on October 16th, but he was scheduled to defend the Intercontinental Championship against China at the No Mercy pay-per-view on October 17th. This meant Jarrett was technically a free agent while still holding the physical championship belt, and everyone knew he was planning to leave for WCW immediately after the show to join his friend Vince Russo. This created an absolute nightmare scenario for WWE and the McMahon family. Everyone vividly remembered what happened in 1995 when Alundra Blaze threw the WWF Women's Championship into a trash can on WCW Monday Nitro. It was one of the single most embarrassing moments in WWE history and damaged the company's reputation. If Jarrett left WWE with the Intercontinental Championship, he could potentially do the same thing and humiliate them again on national television. On the day of No Mercy, Jeff Jarrett made his demand crystal clear. He refused to walk to the ring or wrestle the match unless WWE paid him a substantial amount of money immediately in cash. The reported amount varies depending on the source, but it was consistently around $300,000. Jarrett claimed he was simply collecting money he was legitimately owed for pay-per-view bonuses and merchandise royalties that hadn't cleared through accounting yet. But the McMahons saw the situation completely differently. To them, this was pure extortion and blackmail. Jarrett was holding the championship hostage and forcing them to pay a ransom. Vince McMahon, who was always practical and pragmatic about business above all else, made the decision to pay Jarrett what he demanded. He absolutely needed Jarrett to wrestle the match and lose to China so the title could be transferred safely and cleanly. Protecting the integrity of the championship lineage was more important than his personal pride in that moment. But Shane McMahon had a completely different reaction. He was absolutely enraged beyond reason. He wasn't thinking about business logistics or championship lineages. He was thinking about his father being publicly humiliated, disrespected, and forced to pay what amounted to ransom money to a hostage taker. Hardcore Holly wrote extensively about this incident in his autobiography. He described the scene backstage as absolutely explosive and volatile. Shane was cursing at Jeff Jarrett with intense, violent fury. He was screaming at him with pure hatred. Shane wanted to physically fight Jarrett right there in the arena. This wasn't the calculated anger of a corporate executive worried about money or business implications. This was the primal rage of a son watching his father get robbed and humiliated. Multiple people had to physically restrain Shane and calm him down to prevent him from actually attacking Jarrett and starting a real fight. Jarrett did wrestle the scheduled match that night. He lost to China in what was billed as a good housekeeping match that involved various kitchen items and implements as weapons. Immediately after losing the championship, Jarrett left the building and departed for WCW. But the McMahon family absolutely did not forget what happened that night. 18 months later, on March 26, 2001, WWE purchased WCW and won the Monday Night Wars. That very night, there was a special simulcast broadcast of both Raw and the final episode of Nitro. Vince McMahon appeared on camera watching Jeff Jarrett on the WCW video feed. With genuine, undisguised hatred in his voice and on his face, Vince spelled out a message letter by letter. Capital G, double O, double N, double E, gone. He publicly fired Jeff Jarrett on national television in front of millions of viewers. It was a direct receipt and payback for what happened at No Mercy. For the next 19 years, Jeff Jarrett was completely banned from WWE. Many other wrestlers who had left for WCW eventually came back and were forgiven. Former enemies were brought back for business reasons when it made financial sense, but not Jeff Jarrett. Shane McMahon's influence and power within the company during the 2000s and early 2010s kept that door permanently locked and bolted shut. Shane viewed Jarrett as a coward and a traitor who had exploited an administrative mistake to rob and extort his family. In Shane's personal code of honor, that kind of betrayal was absolutely unforgivable under any circumstances. Jarrett went on to found his own wrestling company called TNA, which stood for Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. Shane viewed TNA not simply as another competing wrestling promotion, but specifically as the personal project of the man who had humiliated and extorted his father. The hatred never faded or diminished over time. It stayed fresh and intense for nearly 2 decades. It was only in 2018, when Shane's power and influence within WWE had significantly declined, that Jeff Jarrett was finally allowed to return to the company. WWE needed content and talent for their Hall of Fame ceremony, and by that point, Shane wasn't in a strong enough position to prevent it from happening. But by then, the damage had been done and the message had been sent. The grudge had lasted an entire generation as a testament to Shane's incredibly long memory and his fierce, unwavering commitment to protecting the McMahon family name and honor. Jeff Jarrett is #1 on this list because he violated every single principle that Shane McMahon held sacred. He chose money over loyalty. He humiliated Vince McMahon publicly. He held the championship hostage like a criminal, and he walked away without facing immediate consequences. Shane made absolutely certain that Jarrett eventually paid an enormous price for that betrayal. The 19-year ban stands as a permanent testament to what happens when you cross Shane McMahon and the McMahon family. Shane McMahon's hatred for these 10 wrestlers reveals a clear and consistent pattern. It was never about jealousy over spotlight or money. It was never about competition over wrestling ability. It was always about loyalty and honor above everything else. Shane operated like a medieval knight whose sole purpose was protecting his father's kingdom from all threats, both external and internal. Whether it was Jarrett holding his father hostage for money, Luger lying directly to Vince's face and then betraying him, or Brock Lesnar throwing a championship belt at an elderly man, Shane's reaction was always identical: pure, unfiltered emotional rage. He wasn't concerned with being professional or diplomatic. He wasn't worried about potential business consequences. His only concern was defending his family's honor by any means necessary. That fierce loyalty made Shane both loved and hated throughout the wrestling business. But no one could ever deny that he was absolutely the truest believer in the McMahon code.